Well, hello and welcome to the Profit Express. I'm Tim Healy, and I'm inviting you to join me each and every Wednesday so you can be ready to win the battle for business. That's right. Hey, thanks for being on board today. And before we dive in, a big shout out and thanks to our good friends and sponsors at Corbett Public Relations, where they've been promoting and protecting businesses and brands for over 30 years. Listen, Bill and his team, they do a phenomenal job. So do yourself a favor. Connect with Bill. Go to CorbettPR.com. That's CorbettPR.com. Welcome aboard, everybody. So here's a question everybody has an answer to. Everybody. What was your favorite toy growing up as a child? Now, I'm sure once I asked that question, you already had one or maybe a few toys come to mind. Was it a Rubik's Cube, G.I. Joe, Rock'em Sock'em Robots, Cabbage Patch Doll? Oh, and the list could go on. For me, it was the game Battleship. I loved the game Battleship. And listen, toys aren't just like something we had a lot of fun with as a kid growing up, obviously. But toys can elicit great memories. Even as adults thinking about when I asked you that question, hey, what was your favorite toy growing up? You probably smiled. It probably brought you back to your childhood. And, even as adults, we have our favorite toys. But again, we're not going to be talking about adult toys today. We're talking about the fun type of toys, the toys for kids. And I realized in the history of the Profit Express, in the nearly 14 years of doing the show, I've never had on an owner or president of a toy company. And I figured, well, hey, at least from an outsider's perspective, it sounds like it's a fun industry. It's an industry I'd love to kind of, dive deep into. So I'm super excited for today's guest. He is Matt Nuccio. He is the president. He's the chief emperor of Design Edge. And they are a leading toy development agency here in New York. And they've got some pretty incredible horsepower, if you will. They've been co-credited for the development of classic toys like Creepy Crawlers and Tickle Me Elmo. So I'm excited to dive into the fun world of the toy industry. And again, never had somebody from that industry on the show ever before. So it's a real pleasure to welcome aboard the Profit Express, Matt Nuccio, Design Edge. How are you today?
I'm doing all right, Tim. How are you doing?
Listen, I'm doing well, and I just realized, when you and I connected, to have you on the show today, I've never had anybody in the toy industry, and we're almost 600 episodes into the show, so you're the first. Welcome aboard.
Wow, I'm excited to be your first. We can have a cigarette after this.
So listen, I start off by saying, asking the listeners, hey, what's your favorite childhood toy? And so many come to mind for so many of us. I have to ask you, Matt, what was your favorite childhood toy?
Oh, it was Crossbows and Catapults, which is a game where you just set up some walls and you fire discs into some walls and smash them and destroy them. And of course, Star Wars, because I was prime age for when the first couple of movies were coming out. So, yeah, that's me. A lot of BMX. I was a big BMX kid as well. I can still consider that a toy.
Okay, yeah. Hey, listen, if you enjoy it, then absolutely. So crossbows and catapults, I've heard about that. That has a kind of medieval flair to it, it sounds like.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm a kid in the early '80s. Everything was like D&D.
You're
There's
right.
Dungeons and Dragons, Conan, and all that stuff. It was all those. That was just so hot back then.
Awesome. So now let me jump in with the state of the industry. I think we all know, with social media, with electronics, with digital, I think, and I've read some articles, I've heard some things, obviously how kids interact with and play with toys has changed because of social and digital. So what is the state of the toy industry in 2023?
Well, the toy industry it's not going to go away. It's play is inherent, right? Children are going to play with toys forever. But yes, digital does exist, but those are still toys in their own respect. But the market itself has actually grown. There's a lot of expansion of the market because adults now collect toys. Adults play board games. It's no longer toys are just for children. So and it's funny how people be like, ah, here, the toys, children don't play with toys anymore. The iPad's ruining your business. And then 2 minutes later, the guy will be telling me about his Funko collection. It's just, everyone's playing with toys today. It's called kid adulting.
All right, so it's all right. Certainly not just for kids. Adults are getting into it. Adults are, collecting, et cetera. When did that happen? Is that a more new trend?
Well, yeah, I would say it started in the very late 90s with collectibles.
Okay.
Really, that's when we started doing like funkier stuff. Like behind me, you can see like Run DMC figures and things like that, whereas really just like funky stuff that, geeks would want to put in their collection and, not never take out of the package. And it sort of just kept growing and growing. But it's sort of happened in the last 20 years in the United States, but it was happening in Japan forever. I'm sure when you were a kid, you remember hearing that like adults in Japan read comic books, and everyone thought that was sort of strange and
Right.
quirky about the Japanese. And now the number one movies in the United States or in the world are Marvel movies, right? Adults
So
read comic
true.
books, follow comic book stories. Where you go into any Target, you're going to see 40-year-old men buying Marvel T-shirts. It's it's fully ingrained into our culture. We are just all big kids, no matter who you are.
At heart, right? Exactly. Yeah, we don't outgrow that. Hey, listen, it's a
Yeah.
good thing. So I said that's kind of interesting because I really didn't know that. I mean, I knew adults have collectibles and all that. Do you know what percentage of the market comes from adults?
I should, but I don't offhand. Sorry.
Okay. No. I just the question just occurred to me. Be pretty interesting. So Japan was ahead of the curve. They had adults reading comic books, long before America. So they kind of, I guess, maybe set the trend over in Japan.
Yeah, a lot of early collectibles are Japanese imports.
They are okay. Now, so in doing some research on, and again, the company's Design Edge. You're a New York agency.
Yes.
You've got some pretty impressive credentials, as I mentioned in the intro, co-credited with Tickle Me Elmo and Creepy Crawlers, to name just a few. Um, I have to ask. So again, Tickle Me Elmo to me is like one of the iconic toys out there. What was it
Yeah, I mean
like to be a
that's one
part?
that every. Well, first it was odd because I grew up in the toy business and I worked in that. I was pretty young. I mean, not a kid young, but early 20s,
Right.
and it was mostly, let's, this is a lot of this is pre-digital. It was marker renderings, a lot of drawing, a lot of just doing variations of it and trying to see what that mechanism could work with, and because it originally came in as a monkey, and we were doing it for Tyco at the time. So yeah, do a whole bunch of drawings, send them in. Following year it gets debuted at Toy Fair, and the year after that it's all over the place. So it was odd because I almost forgot about it, and that's pretty common because everything we work on, by the time it leaves my hands, it could be 2 years before it hits shelf.
Wait, so let me ask you then. Okay, so you said Tickle Me Elmo comes in. There's sketches, there's drawings. It was originally a monkey. So when did it make the change to be the character that we all know today?
Well, Tyco had acquired the Sesame Street license, so we were trying different things. I mean, it was almost, if I recall, I mean, we did a whole bunch of Ernie drawings. It was almost an Ernie.
Really?
And Elmo was starting to trend, and everyone was like, "Well, this new baby Muppet, maybe that's an ideal for the tickling mechanism and laughing." So yeah, that's what it was. And then, but we just do a whole lot of drawings, and then it gets to New York Toy Fair. The buyers, everyone sort of gravitated towards it. It got some good buzz, and that holiday season, as you remember, I mean, if you had one, you could have sold it for $300. It was crazy.
So now, all right. So the New York Toy Fair I assume it's at the Javits. Is that like the big show in the
It's at the
industry?
Javits now, but back then it was in the 205th Avenue building. So the toy industry for over 100 years had its own building when it was pretty
Oh,
cool. Yeah, it's
okay.
now, if you're ever in Manhattan, it's now, if you know where Italy is, that's the same building. So yeah, we
Okay.
had our headquarters, and Design Edge was over there as well, and every major toy company in the world had an office in these two buildings that were connected by one air bridge. It was a really exciting place, to be honest. I loved it. Unfortunately, times change, and things move, and New York City real estate really started to get out of control. So in the late aughts, I'd say around 2007 ish, the industry sort of was completely out of that building, and it just all gravitated towards the Javits Center, which is what you're talking about now.
Right. So okay, so you have the annual toy fair in the city. Does that make or break a toy? Is that where you introduce a new toy and it's sink or swim? Is that what happens there?
Well, in the era of when we did Elmo, for sure. I mean, that was the place to do. But now the world's a little bit different. Toy fair is important. It's good to get in front of vendors. It's not the press event it once was. That's the there's so many more ways to get your news and to find out what's hot and what's not than there was, in the 90s and early 2000s. Back then it was, you had three major networks, right? And if they just all latched onto the same story, things became a phenomenon. And it happened, Cabbage Patch Kids, another example of, with the news really latching onto something, Since then, I mean, when was the last time you really heard of a toy that, parents were getting into fights over? It's not, the world's different.
Wow. Okay. So you come across Tickle Me Elmo, you work on it for a few years, it becomes the huge success it has. Now, again, this is a family-run business. Your parents started in the 80s, right?
Yep.
So let me ask you this. When somebody comes to you and they have an idea for a toy, do you know right away if it's going to be a hit or not?
No, I don't have a crystal ball in that respect, but I definitely have a sense of if it will get to market, and that's the bigger thing, because there's only so many spaces, only
Right.
so many SKUs at a Walmart or a Target. So, getting an idea, understanding the complete landscape of retail and what's out there, we can look at it and we can get an idea. Yeah. But, what's going to be a phenomenon? No, I wish.
Okay, so you don't have a crystal ball to that extent. So somebody comes to you, and again, I've never had anybody in the industry on the show, so I know nothing about the industry. So an excited inventor comes to you. Take us through the process. How do you go from an idea or some sketches to it's on the shelf? What does that process look like?
Sure. So if a toy inventor comes to me and they want to either license their product or manufacture it themselves, we can help them in either way. So if they're entrepreneurial and they want to go the ride and they want us to develop and manufacture and help arrange distribution, we can do that. If they have an idea and they want us to present it to Mattel or Hasbro or Spin Master or any of the giant toy companies, we can do that as well. Mm-hmm. But first, they got to come in here and I got to review the product, and I have to make sure that it's something that I want to get involved in, because we only have so much bandwidth. There's only so much we could put our focus on, and we need to choose items that we feel are going to be successful. Right. So I'll look at it, and to me it's not exactly about how well they prototyped it or their backstory or how they tell me it's going to also have a comic book and a movie and all that. I ignore all that. I'm just purely focusing on that product, and if I see a potential with that product, then we'll take it on, and we'll do conceptual drawings like we did with Elmo, and then tighten those up, do schematics and CADs and prototype stuff and get costing and get production samples and get it in front of buyers, and it's a very long and fun road. It's kind of crazy.
So
yeah. But I got to like it, or at least I have to know that I know somebody that would like it. But generally the ones that are good are the ones that I go, oh yeah, I'd buy this.
So that's kind of like your litmus test. Like if you look at it and say, I would buy this, then it's a basic go for you.
Yeah. And also the other important thing is I have to feel like I can work with that person. I've passed on items that I just was like, there's no way I could work with this person. We're just going to clash. We're going to be oil and vinegar. But if I feel like I can really, get along and have fun and get the product done and get some really good input and be a good team, that's probably more important to me than the product, because it's more common than not to start with one version of a toy, and by the time we're done, it's completely different. Things changed.
Really?
It's a process. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's
So
like you ever
also,
hear. I liken it to music. You ever hear a demo of a song, like a Beatles demo, like it's just John or Paul playing an acoustic, and then you compare it to the final outcome, and they're almost completely different songs at different speeds, and you know, like the final version is a full orchestra, and all these harmonies, and the original version is just sort of rough, maybe one verse and a chorus. And it's development. It's gotta we have to incubate these ideas and grow them and make sure that they're ready to get out into the world.
so that's interesting. So somebody comes to you, they're the creator of a toy, and I would imagine it's to a certain extent, it's like their baby, right? Their invention. Is,
Yep.
do they get defensive or protective? Because you're advising them, on how to develop it. Is there a clash in that
Oh, I mean,
process?
usually, I mean, my favorite thing to do is to tell them that their baby's ugly. No, but no, but seriously, I have to. It's people can get. I've had people get very upset when I tell them I'm not interested, and then they'll try harder and they'll try to talk me into it. And I've
Right.
had people mail me gifts, and you know, at one point somebody put somewhere on the internet that I liked rum, and I don't drink rum. But all of a sudden, I was getting like inundated like a couple of times a year with like people sending me rum to try to. I'm like, where is this coming from? Like somebody on some forum said that I liked rum, but it was funny. But yeah, so people try to convince me in multiple ways, but I'm like, you can try to convince me all you want. If I don't get it, I don't get it, and I'm just not the right guy for you. You got to find somebody else to do it that's going to believe in it.
Right.
I'm, I have to be emotionally tied to it. I'm going to be spending a lot of time developing this product.
So that's well. All right. So let me go back to this. So if somebody does want to bribe you, what is it that you drink or like that they should send to you? I think it could be a good reference
Okay.
point.
Well, like the high end tequilas, with those would go over well. That's fine with me.
Okay, so for you listening out there who want to get Matt's attention, it's not rum, it's high end tequila. Ooh, like Casamigos,
Yeah.
would that maybe be something that you'd be
Yeah, yeah,
interested in?
yeah. That's, and
Okay.
then every time I ring that little bell, I'll be like, yeah, this is an amazing toy.
So no, but you said all right. So there's two things that are interesting. So you said that hey, I might pass on somebody if I don't get along with the inventor because you're getting into a business relationship that could be a couple of years. So that relationship is a key element. Number one.
Well, it's not even
Um,
that. I should rephrase that a little bit. It might not
okay.
even be that I don't get along with them. They could be the sweetest person or funny or somebody
Mm-hmm.
that I would totally hang out with on the weekend. But if
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel they're going to be able to take this roller coaster, or it's going to break them, or they're going to, totally lose their proverbial shit over things, like
Yeah.
I almost feel like I have to be able to protect them. They don't realize this. It sounds like, oh, I'm going to make a toy. This is going to be fun. I'm like, no, this is big business. We're dealing, in billions of dollars and fighting for retail space. It's going to be ups and downs, and you're going to go through the ringer. You're opening a business. You're not just coming up with a toy and just in 2 weeks from now, it's going to be the hot thing at Target. It's no different than starting a restaurant. There's going to be
Yeah.
moments where you're like, I
Yeah.
hope people come in today. It's and most just like most restaurants fail within their first year. Many toys don't take either. And why is that? It's so many factors, and that's why when you first come in, I have to feel like I've mitigated a lot of the 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 market, and I can look at them and I can say this product stands a chance. But if you came to me with an idea for a restaurant that just did peanut butter flavored Jellos on hot dog buns, I'd tell you it's not viable.
Probably not a good idea.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah. Although maybe it is. I have to go home and make that and see actually if it tastes any good.
so jelly in flavored marshmallow and hot dog buns, was that your idea?
Yeah, I just made that up on the spot, so it might
Okay.
actually
Yeah, I
work. I'll
thought
have
so.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
Maybe.
if you sold it in front of a weed dispensary, you probably make some money. Timing and location, location.
So now somebody comes to you, they, because I started the show by saying, hey, it's a from the outside, it's a fun industry. I'm not
It
involved
is.
in it. So, but there is the reality and the seriousness of, a multi-billion dollar industry worldwide, obviously. and you have to they come to you with these romantic notions. I've got this toy; it's going to fly off the shelves, and I'm going to be rich and famous. And then you kind of bring them down to reality. Are they ready? And I'm quoting you: are they ready for the roller coaster ride of making a toy?
Inventing is a hard business.
Right.
It's something like ridiculous. I think Edison Nation did a poll, and it's like something crazy. Like 90% of inventors believe that they're gonna make $5 million off their idea. But the reality is 3% make it to market.
Out of all inventions, 3% make it to market.
Yeah, well, people who view themselves as inventors, but it's like acting too. Like how many actors think they're going to make it, and they're just waiting tables. Just
Wow.
Hollywood's full of that, right?
Wow, that's
So you got to align
incredible.
yourself with the right people. That's which is why we're strong, because we review stuff and we make sure that we have a very good batting average, because I don't just take whatever walks through the door.
So you're
And
discriminate,
bad
right?
product also dilutes me. I have to be careful with that. If I just keep releasing, failures, it's like, again, like the music business. It's you have a bunch of bomb songs, so no one's going to buy your albums.
Yeah, after a while, your reputation's shot. It's ruined.
Yeah.
So the business started in the 80s with your parents, family-owned business. Who was so it was mom and dad. What did you learn from dad about the business, and what did you learn from mom about the business?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I should really just tell more of the story of like how the business sort of came about, and that sort of answers those questions as we go along. So
Sure.
my father was in the toy industry. He started back in 1969 working for Ideal Toys,
Mm-hmm.
and then he hopped around a little bit. Ended up a company called HG Toys, which made a lot of like dress up stuff and puzzles, and a lot of TV license stuff. You want like a Chips play set or Dukes of Hazzard or
Oh
Welcome
yeah,
Back Carter. It was they did all those crazy funky stuff.
yeah.
And then he was there until '87 when the company got acquired, and he
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to go, and he started doing freelance out of the garage. And my mother was an illustrator and an art teacher, and so they just started working together. And my sister and I were drafted from day one and started out of the garage. And so what I learned from both of them was like the hustle. Like I don't give up. We never really had an opportunity to just lounge around, especially those first few years. Like we didn't have vacations or breaks. We worked, especially this time of year. In the old days, New York Toy Fair used to be in February, so I'd have my Christmas break, and we'd be working on samples. That's what we'd be doing. And in college, you get off all of January. All my friends would come back all well relaxed. I'd be stressed to the max because I just spent a month working 10-hour days, building stuff. So, yeah. So I learned work ethic from both of my parents. My father really just taught me a lot about manufacturing, about engineering, about just the skills required to be a strong designer in the toy
Mm.
industry. My mother taught me, financials and illustration and also how to you know be a more charming person. My father's a very funny guy, but he's very aggressive and short-tempered Sicilian. And my mother's like one of those people, like you can't even tell if she's angry. She's just
Wow.
very even keeled. So a lot of people say I look like my father, make jokes like my father, but I have my mother's temperament. So
Well, as you've described it, that's an awesome balance. So your mom kind of helps soften your dad's edges a little bit. It sounds like.
oh yeah, for sure. To this day,
Now,
yes.
it's so funny how the classic American startup, it's like it almost by default has to involve a garage somewhere, and
Yeah.
you and you guys are no different. So you said you had a sister, right? So you and your sister were kind of drafted, early on.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, she went to. She was a couple of years older than me, and she was going to the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan at the time when the
Okay.
business started. And yeah, and she was in it for quite a bit of time. I think she left around 2000 ish because she got married, started having kids, and then
Sure.
moved up to Westchester and didn't really want to be involved in it. So I chugged along, and my cousin works here too, and he's sort of my right hand man. So it's still we call it the other Italian family business.
Thank you for the distinction. I appreciate that. So, all right. So your dad is an executive, bounced around a little bit. Company gets acquired. They don't want to move. He wants to stay in New York with family. Starts out on his own, makes that big, dive into the deep end, called startup. What was the first breakthrough where, toy that?
Oh, we launched quick. So like,
really?
So right. So my father, he jumped ship from HG Toys, and so do a few other people. And those few other people start other toy companies like Toy Biz and Toy Max, and those companies rose to prominence pretty quickly. And we were their art departments. Like, we became their art department. So we're in the garage maybe a year or two, and then all of a sudden we're in Manhattan. We have our own office there, and then as the toy building became more showrooms and less office space, we moved back out onto Long Island. The company started growing. My parents, sell their little house, and then they, moved to a house on the water, and life changed. We were working on massive projects with big toy companies. I'm 19 years old, building aircraft carriers, smashing through walls at the Matchbox showroom. Like, it's like unreal stuff. It was crazy, and and still to this day, like, we work on some things. I'm like, I don't know how I got in this position, but we work on some pretty damn cool stuff all the time. And people come into my office and their eyes are just like, giant wide. Like, you worked on that and you worked on that. I'm like, yeah, but I forget what we've worked on. It's crazy. There's stuff sitting around, like, you're just a kid in a toy store here. It's lots of eye candy. But it's not me. I'm not the eye candy.
Thanks for letting us know. Now, all right. So
I've got nice legs.
You do? Okay. So you like high-end tequila and you have nice legs. Okay, that's good.
Right, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, and listen, you are a toy mogul with nice legs who has an appreciation for tequila. Who wouldn't want a piece of that? So it's based on the story you've just told. Your dad had the connections, which always helps in business, and he was networked because of where he worked. So you guys started succeeding relatively quickly. You're saying a couple of years. That's a relatively quick trajectory.
Yeah, well, because my dad was very aggressive, and he was fortunate enough that the guys that were starting these toy companies, he was already equal with them back when they worked at HG. So he was never the let's just hire a schlub designer. He was like the kind of guy who we'd have clients, big clients that would hire us, and I swear my father would just like turn them in like they were his employees. He would be telling them what to do.
Really?
Yeah, and because he had a wealth of knowledge and he knew what he was doing, and so people would just lean on us and be like, we need these lines developed, and they just hand us the keys and just say go and run, and we got that reputation and we maintained that reputation. We still are a go-to studio for massive projects. People will say, like, why would a big toy company hire you? Don't they have their own art departments? They do, but we can run parallel with them, or we can take on special projects, and we can take it from A to Z and get it done and do it and do it not just effectively, but also design it to an ideal retail price. So because we know all the different sides of the toy industry, and these days, even like when I take like entrepreneurs who want to start up, not only do we design it and manufacture it, I arrange distribution for them. I know the buyers at retail. Work with all the sales reps. I realized a few years ago I could take somebody from the street and get them to the retail shelf. And not many people can do all that and at one stop. It's not like I'm farming things out to everybody. We're designing it, we're manufacturing, we're overseeing it. So I trademarked Your Toy Company for Hire, because that's what we are. We're a toy company for hire.
So it sounds like basically each phase of development from inception to shelf, you guys cover in
Yep.
one way, shape. Okay. I want to go back to your dad. He sounds like an interesting guy. Twice you described him as aggressive. And it sounded like
Yes.
because of because of his experience, he had confidence in what he did, and he could talk to clients, and they bought in. And we know confidence is key. Was he the one who's really selling the company in the beginning? Was that more of his forte?
No, well, yes and no. We were never, and still aren't, built to have like a sales force internally. Like
Okay.
I'm become by default the face of Design Edge, but I'm like my job isn't sales. I'm still a designer and an
Right.
engineer and developing stuff. So, but my father also was just sort of the face of the business. But it was also different times, and in some respects, I kind of feel like my mother got screwed over a little bit. It was, too much the old glass ceiling effect, where, even though my mother and I, the ones who worked on Tickle Me Elmo, and my mother did the lion's share of that development and
Really?
renderings, but but she doesn't really get as much credit as she should, because the industry, especially back then, was sexist.
Was it
Didn't
really?
really want to deal with it. Yeah,
Wow. Well,
yeah,
okay.
different times.
So if your parents started today, your mother would be set up in a different way.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. And so
I mean,
now you're
but
giving,
again, not to discredit my father. He's very talented in his own right. They
of
were a good
course.
yin and yang, and they were definitely my mother came to meetings. My mother did everything she's supposed to do, but at the end of the day, people were like, oh, we got some design stuff to do. Get Mark Nuccio on the phone. It was never, didn't call for my mother. They called for him. The
Yeah.
old boys stuff. Like
Uh,
I always call him like the old school cigar chomping.
yeah. Yeah.
That type of
Yeah.
like, hey, let's get some toys made. Puffing on a cigar.
but but but
Very
but
different than the corporate world today.
oh yeah, yeah. In the '80s compared to 2023, you got that right.
Yeah.
But you're giving your mom quite a bit of credit. You said she was responsible for a lot of the development of Elmo, if I heard that right.
Well, I mean, Elmo was developed by a lot of people, so I'm just saying, and what we did here at Design
Yeah.
It, she was the lead on that. Yes, I can never take credit for Tickle Me Elmo. We can take credit for working on it and being in the development
Yeah.
team. The toy business. So many people work on stuff.
Yeah.
It's we're not just not an artist who just like sculpted it and put it out there. There's teams and marketing's
Sure.
involved, and
Sure.
and yeah, it's sales, and it's hundreds of people will touch a product.
All right. As you've described, Design Edge and what you do, you've mentioned a lot of functions. Okay. What is it that you enjoy most doing?
New product development. That's what I like the most. It's really just getting a product from concept and birthing it, getting it, from a wet napkin drawing to the retail shelf. I like that entire process, and really, thinking things through, and doing the design and doing the engineering, and creating the packaging, and then getting reps and buyers excited about something. I just like the whole damn process. It's and we have a bunch of accounts, so I'm going through that range of emotions daily on different levels. I can talk to somebody who's just pitching me their idea in the morning, and at an hour later I'm trying to convince a rep that he should take on a line that of something that we developed earlier in the year,
Yeah.
and then there's where the whole team's drawing up ideas and developing stuff all day long, and I come in and we review stuff, and edit stuff and rearrange stuff and try to make sure it's the best damn toy it can possibly be.
Mm. Now, one thing I've done a number of shows on the Profit Express, Made in America. It's a fascinating topic for me. On your website, that's part of what you guys do. Whether it's here in the U.S. or I believe you also mentioned China. I mean, we could do a whole show just on the manufacturing end, I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, I'm sure. Do multiple
yeah.
shows.
So, how do you compare toy manufacturing in America versus the U.S.?
All right, so I'm very versed in this, and I can answer this. We have to remember that after the war, a lot of manufacturing started going to Japan, right?
Mm-hmm,
It was
mm-hmm.
basically simple manufacturing, and then the Japanese were already producing toys for their own market. So one of the first things to be mass produced and brought to the U.S. was made in Japan toys, and then it moved over to made in Taiwan,
Yeah.
then made in Hong Kong, and then eventually made in China. And so this cost structure of low price point toys is so ingrained now that it's very difficult for the U.S. to ever really compete. Because yes, some products have moved to China more recently, last 20 years, something. This is nearly 70 years of manufacturing toys in Asia. It's, again, one of the first categories to be produced overseas. So, so in that respect, it's very difficult. We just don't have the infrastructure for it here. We can make certain things. We make, basic, simple injection molded type stuff in the States. We do some printing, some games, some puzzles can be done here. But, it's very difficult to say, mass produce an action figure and have it decoed here. Just finding the skilled labor force to do the paint jobs alone is
really
next to impossible. Yeah, it just people don't want to do that type of work. But do you want to work in a factory and paint GI Joes all day?
That's a very good way of answering that question. So here's a question. You said that, listen, there's always going to be toys. Kids still play with toys. Adults are playing with toys and collecting toys. But has the industry seen the way kids play with toys, or the kind of toys that kids are looking for, different? Hey, I grew up in the 70s. I'm a bit older than you. You said you're an 80s kid. Are the trends and the habits different from when we were growing up?
No. I would say
Really?
no, which I would definitely get fought with on that one. I find that all the crazy stuff that people try to incorporate into toys always fails, right? So every item that I've seen where they try to incorporate, digital into toys or put, augmented reality into toys, it generally just doesn't. I haven't seen an item be truly successful doing that. Kids use their imagination. They'll pick up a stick, right? Yeah. The number one selling toys or like take Hot Wheels, for instance. I mean, it's a ridiculous amount of Hot Wheels. It's just a simple toy. Kids are going to roll it on the ground and they're going to make their car sounds, and that's that. And adults are going to collect them. A good solid toy does both. It can be played by Hot Wheels is a great example. You can buy a Hot Wheels for your 2-year-old, and there's probably some 40-year-old guy living in his mother's basement who's got a wall like this behind him of just Hot Wheels cars.
Wait,
right?
Do you live in your mother's basement? Is that what you're saying?
No. And that would be funny if this actually was like you heard my mother screaming at the meatloaf's done. Right?
Matthew, come up for dinner.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So great toys can be played by a 5-year-old and collected by an adult. That's a great way to put it. So again, at the end of the day, a kid knows what they enjoy, having fun and being creative and using imagination. So the more they complicated it, it doesn't work.
Yeah. I mean, just happens to be here. So this is weird because it's actually me. So Funko, you familiar with Funko Pops?
Yeah.
So my kids have walls of these. And this actually happens to be of me. Funko made me an award a little while ago.
Wow.
And they made a Funko Pop of myself. But again, simple. There's nothing going on here. This is just injection molded plastic, and that's that.
Yeah.
But but times change. Like I have some old HG stuff that my father used to work on, and I think it's hysterical. Hold on, like every kid wants the Serpico playset. Yeah. But look at these guns. Can you am I getting on camera here? The gun in this
go
thing
the other
is
way.
like,
There you go. Yeah.
Look at it. You get shot walking down the street with that toy gun these days.
That's a real gun.
And then here's a chips set. Look at this gun on this one too. Again, ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're talking about memories and the emotion of toys, and so I'm a boy, and two of my favorite guns. A game I love, Battleship. Love playing Battleship, and then I got
Battleship's awesome.
It was a great game. There's 2 guns I was given. Okay, one is still in my bedroom at my parents' house. It is a wooden, like a bolt action World War I rifle with a gold bullet. We still have.
Oh yeah. No, I remember those.
Did you remember those? Right. And then
I know the cocking lever with the little wooden bullet in there.
Totally look like a real gun.
This one's cool. Check out this. I have a
Go ahead.
This was made by Mattel.
Oh,
Full on Tommy gun.
yes. I had a black MC. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, you can't sell these anymore. Again, if I walked into a gas station carrying this, I'd get shot dead.
I had, and the classic M16, all black. I had it, and there was no orange tip back in the day. It was just
Yeah.
a full on gun, and the sound it made. I played that thing till my finger got like red raw. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, we all did. I mean, I played a lot of war too. It's times, but now like like while our guns looked real, they didn't function. Now these
Right.
Nerf guns don't look real, but they're a hell of a lot more effective. You can have a full on battle. Or these gel blasters. I mean, again, there's some hit toys that people are like, what are kids playing with today? Have you seen these gel blasters? They're insane. They're really cool. Like you just fill these guns up, they'll shoot little gel pellets like no tomorrow, nonstop. They're sick. And Nerf, what they've done in the last 20 years,
Oh my God.
we're at a level of engineering that's like NASA level at this point. It's crazy.
Well, it's like with the BB gun, you can lose an eye. I mean, you got to be careful.
Yeah.
Oh man! All right, now I don't know if you can answer this question, but I have to ask it. Was there a toy that the inventor came to you, and you're thinking to yourself, "Man, this is a dud. This is not going to do anything," and you send them on their way, and it becomes a hit?
Luckily,
ever-
no.
Okay.
But not a toy. But there was the pop socket guys came to me early on and I was like that's annoying. Why would I want this little thing on the back of my phone? It's just gonna get jammed up in my pocket. So I turned them down.
Really?
So yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
that's a regret.
Oh man, wow, it's funny as I'm talking to you and there's the video and I can obviously see, just how the expression on your face, when you're pulling the Funko, the Serpico set for the gun and all that, and just the pure joy of all that, and Matt, as I'm talking to you, I'm just I watched growing up and I'm dating myself a lot of World War II movies and John Wayne and it was cops and robbers, cowboys, Indians. It was World War II stuff. And remember those green army figures, and we used to tie firecrackers to them and blow
Oh yeah,
'em up.
Green Army men. Yeah.
Oh man, hours of fun with that stuff.
Oh, yeah, I mean, because we're of the age where we were feral children. Yes, we could
Exactly.
get away with that if we wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're still here to tell the story. Let me talk a little bit. We've talked about so much. This has been an awesome conversation so far, Matt. Thank you. Toy stores in 2018. The iconic, chain Toys R Us, 735 stores closed.
Yep.
FAO Schwartz was it KB Toys. Where are toy stores nowadays?
Well, first, Toys R Us didn't close because there was a lack of market. The market was there. It was just over leveraged by the people, the hedge funds that owned it.
Yeah, they
And
had a lot of
made
debt,
a real
yeah.
estate play. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So, but Toys R Us is coming back. It's they're opening. I mean, they're opening them all over the country. There's some big plans for it. But yeah, there's support your local mom and pop shop. I mean, that's really that's the place you should be buying toys because there's some great specialty toy stores all over the country where they go and they work hard to curate a good line for their community. So rather than go to Walmart and Target, first befriend your local toy shop and get to know what they're peddling. But of course, Target and Walmart have increased their footage of toys as well, and Barnes and Noble has a great toy section. I mean, there's plenty of places to buy toys.
So it's not as dire as you would think, but you always and I'm with you as far as supporting the local community compared to the big box stores. 'Cause I'd have to imagine somebody who's got a retail shop, an independent retail shop, has to be passionate for toys like you are.
Oh yeah, I know some great independent retail shop owners all over the country that I've never stepped foot in their stores because they're they're in the middle of Wisconsin or
Yeah.
Illinois or somewhere in Arizona. But I know them from trade shows, and I know their reputations, and I see them, on LinkedIn, talking about. They can make or break a toy. Specialty is really where things get incubated. You get an item that the specialty toy stores like, and they get behind it. You can that can blow up into. It's just that's the ultimate. That's what you want. That's the best way to get to critical mass. To start at the base. The underswell, because a lot of the mass toys, if you get into mass immediately and you're just a startup or an independent, you're never going to have the marketing dollars to compete against the Mattels, the Legos, the Hasbros of the world. So you need that underswell of people who just word of mouth told each other about this great toy or this great game that they found. And that starts at specialty when the owner of the store goes, "Hey, have you seen this amazing Serpico playset?"
So if you get picked up that's like a toy influencer, and then that explodes on social, and that could be your ticket.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. A trivia
And I have
question.
conversations with these guys. I call them to find out what's going on. I like to speak with these small shop owners because they're the lifeline.
Right. Yeah. They have a finger on the pulse in a unique way. Interesting trivia question. I'm asking you. I don't know. Greatest selling toy of all time. Do you know what it is? I'm just curious.
I still think that's. I do think it's Hot Wheels.
Is it Hot Wheels?
I mean, the amount that they sell on a annual basis, hasn't slowed down since its inception. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but everything else you might go, oh, was it Tickle Me Elmo? No, because it was a blip. I mean, it was really hot for like a year. Most toys are fashion. It's hot for a season or two and then forgotten about.
What about Legos, though? I mean,
oh yeah, Legs. Yeah, well, they were. I have to check. The largest independently owned toy company.
Really?
Yeah, but Lego, yeah, for sure. But I don't. I think of. Lego's had its ups and downs. It's obviously it's an iconic product.
Of course. So, but Hot Wheels has been that consistent. I mean, I know growing up as a kid, every kid had 20 or 30 of them at least.
Listen, I'm sure we could Google this or ask ChatGPT and get this answer in 2 seconds.
So, Matt, it's been a great conversation. It's been fun for me. I mean, having a toy executive, a toy business owner on the show today. Let's take it back because it's the Profit Express. We talk about, winning the battle for business, and it's like having people like you on who can share your experiences, that apply to all business owners, not just the toy industry, obviously. But so as you look back from your involvement with your folks in Design Edge when you got, recruited, to work in the garage back in the day, as you look back, if you had a do-over with Design Edge, what would it be?
I wouldn't do anything over. It is what it is. It's fun. We have a good ride. Very fortunate that I have one of those jobs where I don't feel like I'm stressed or I hate it or I just can't wait to get home. Like I got into the office today at about 7:15. It's 7:25. I'm still at the office. I have a giant playground here. It's like we have a sound studio. I've got a whole place where my band can come and jam. We've got, video and all this model making equipment and 3D printing and vacuum forming and my job is a playground. So there's nothing I would change.
So you don't want to go home is the answer to really what it is. It's too much fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have to go home at some point because I have these 2 little kids that like me. They call me Dad for some reason. I don't know what that's all about. But
awesome, Matt. It's been a great conversation. People follow you, want to contact you. What's the best way to connect?
Yeah, I mean, you can email me at matt@designedge.net. A lot of people follow me on LinkedIn. I have a good LinkedIn following, so you can reach me there as well. Obviously, the designedge.net is our website. If it's a nice day, some smoke signals might help. But any way you can get a hold of me.
Gotcha.
Find us in the yellow pages if you're old school.
The yellow pages. Oh my God. Wait, one last quick question. All right, so I also found out that there's a show that you're percolating.
So I signed a deal with. Yeah, so I signed a deal with Donna Drake there and her production company to do our own TV show called Toys of Our Lives, where I'm going to be sitting down, similar to the way you are right there, with
Yeah, yeah.
celebrities and talking about the toys that made them into who they are, you know, and just chat away, figure out like for instance, Battleship was your game.
Yeah.
Think about it. Think about your career choices. Is Battleship actually explain your personality? Are you an aggressive guy who's just sort of throwing things everywhere, trying to hit something successfully?
If you ask I will not answer that, but if you ask my wife that question, she would say absolutely yes. So
Yep.
as a good indicator.
But it is amazing though when people tell me what their favorite toys are. You can see it in their person. Once they say it, and you look at them like it's their personality. It makes complete sense.
Wow. So the toys you play as a child could be a future indicator of where you end up as an adult.
Yeah, or yes, I would say that. But obviously, you play with a lot of toys, but it's your
Yeah.
favorite toy, I would say,
Right.
because you can't just look at a kid playing with a toy and they're like, "Oh my God, the kid's a serial killer," right? Like just because, if you told me your favorite toy was your toy machine gun, I'd be a little, a little more nervous, you know.
So it's Toys of Our Lives is the show. You're going to have a celebrity twist on it where you want to know what their favorite toys are.
Yeah, so we'll sit down with celebrities in studio. We'll show them their favorite toy. And
Yeah.
we'll have bigger conversations about it. So they might tell me their favorite toy was, I don't even know what I have lying around here. Depending on how old they are. Yeah, I gotta look around. So sorry, I don't know much stuff sitting around here. No, here's one. But no, the audience won't know this because this is really rare. But they love the TV show Vegas. I have a lot of toy gun sets here. That might speak volumes of how demented I am. But yeah, so we'd sit there, we'd discuss what they loved as a child. We'd get a version of it presented to them, so they'd be like, "Oh, I haven't seen that since I was 10 years old." Get them excited, and then talk about how it affected their career, and then talk about where their career is at now, and then
Yeah.
maybe show them some new toys, maybe show them some toys based on them, like if they had a movie role and they actually made some action figures of them, or and just take it from there. And also we'll do another segment where we're actually going to go to toy stores and buy gifts for the next guest. So we'll, with one celebrity, buy toys for another celebrity.
I like that idea. That's a cool idea. That's a very, very cool idea. So Toys of Our Lives hits the road, going to your local toy store. Listen, Matt, this has been a great conversation. Listen, just talking to you, I started, reliving all of the toys that I had, and listen, as an adult, you kind of forget how much damn fun it is, man. This is, and I'm a little, listen, I do love what I do for a living, right? But listen, as a sales trainer and coach to corporate America, not nearly as fun. So I am a little jealous, man. I am a little jealous.
Well, maybe, and after this conversation, all of a sudden you'll start telling people your favorite game was Monopoly.
Yeah, instead of Battleship, right? Or an M16 machine gun. Matt, listen,
Right.
thanks again so much for being on board. It was a great conversation. Thank you, sir.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
You got it. And this is the Profit Express. And don't forget to follow us, like us, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You know the deals, at the Profit Express, at Profit Express, and hit that notification bell. But more importantly, keep tuning in each and every Wednesday for great shows like the one I just had with Matt Nuccio, who is president and co-founder. It's a family-run business of Design Edge, who quite frankly has probably one of the most cool jobs of any guest I've had on the show. And until next time, this is the Profit Express, and let's continue to win the battle for business.